Scientists studying end-of-life psychology have discovered something remarkable. People who regularly contemplate their own death report significantly higher life satisfaction, less anxiety, and more meaningful relationships than those who avoid thinking about mortality. But Western psychology only recently discovered what Tibetan Buddhism has practiced for over 1,000 years. There's a specific 6-minute meditation on death that Tibetan monks perform daily. A practice so powerful it transforms not just how you'll die, but how you live right now. This isn't morbid obsession with death. It's the most life-affirming practice you'll ever encounter. If you're ready to discover the meditation that Tibetan masters say is more important than any other practice, the technique that makes every moment precious and dissolves the fear that quietly controls most of your decisions, then subscribe to this channel right now and turn on all notifications, because these 6 minutes could change everything about how you experience your remaining days on Earth. Death meditation might sound depressing or morbid to Western ears, but this reaction reveals a profound misunderstanding. In Tibetan Buddhist culture, death isn't a taboo subject to be avoided in polite conversation. It's a constant presence, acknowledged openly, contemplated regularly, and used as the primary motivation for spiritual practice. The Tibetan word for human is me, and the traditional definition emphasizes that humans are beings who know they will die. This knowing, this awareness of mortality, is what separates humans from animals and creates the unique opportunity for enlightenment that human birth provides. Animals experience death but don't contemplate it. Humans can use awareness of death as rocket fuel for transformation, but only if they actually engage with this awareness rather than suppressing it beneath layers of distraction and denial. Most people live in what existential philosophers call bad faith, a state of denial about fundamental realities. You know intellectually that you'll die, but you don't really believe it. Not deep down. Not in a way that affects your choices. You live as if you have infinite time, as if death happens to other people but somehow won't happen to you, as if you'll get around to what really matters eventually but not yet, because there's always tomorrow. This denial isn't accidental. Your psychological defense mechanisms work constantly to keep death awareness at a comfortable distance. You're surrounded by reminders of mortality. Every funeral you attend, every obituary you read, every elderly person you see, every ache in your aging body. But your mind immediately deflects. That was them, not me. I'm still young enough. I have decades left. I'll think about death when I'm old. These deflections allow you to maintain comfortable routines, but they come at an enormous cost. They make your life feel endless, which paradoxically drains it of urgency, meaning, and vitality. The 6-minute death meditation systematically dismantles these defenses. It forces you to confront what you spend enormous energy avoiding: the absolute certainty that you will die, the complete uncertainty of when you'll die, and the question of whether you're prepared for that inevitability. This confrontation isn't comfortable, especially the first several times you practice. You might experience fear, anxiety, sadness, or even panic. These reactions are normal and actually valuable. They're showing you how much unconscious energy you've been using to avoid reality. They're revealing the fear that's been quietly running your life from behind the scenes, influencing your choices without your conscious awareness. Bringing this fear into consciousness paradoxically reduces its power. What you face directly loses its ability to control you indirectly. The structure of the 6-minute meditation is elegantly simple, derived from traditional Tibetan contemplations, but adapted to be accessible for contemporary practitioners. The practice divides into 3 2-minute segments, each focusing on a specific aspect of death contemplation. This structure ensures comprehensive engagement with mortality, while remaining brief enough to practice daily, regardless of how busy your schedule. 6 minutes is short enough that you cannot make excuses about lacking time. Everyone has 6 minutes. The question is whether you have the courage to use those 6 minutes facing the reality you normally avoid. Share in the comments. What stops you from thinking about your own death? Before beginning the formal practice, take a moment to settle your body and mind. Sit in a comfortable position with your spine straight. This doesn't require full lotus posture or any special seat. You can sit in a chair, on a couch, or on a meditation cushion. What matters is maintaining alert wakefulness rather than slumping into sleepiness. Close your eyes or lower your gaze. Take 3 deep breaths, exhaling fully and allowing your body to release tension. Let your breathing return to its natural rhythm. Establish a clear motivation for this practice. You might think or whisper, "May this meditation on death help me live with wisdom and purpose, and may it benefit all beings who also face mortality." This motivation transforms the practice from self-focused anxiety management into something larger, connecting your personal contemplation to universal human experience. The first 2-minute segment contemplates the certainty of death. Set a timer for 2 minutes so you're not distracted by checking time. Begin by thinking clearly, "I will definitely die." This isn't maybe, isn't probably, isn't eventually in some distant future. This is absolute certainty. Every human who has ever lived has died. Billions upon billions of deaths throughout history, not one exception. Not one person who figured out how to avoid it, who was important enough to be exempt, who was careful enough to escape. Death has a perfect record. It comes for everyone without exception. It will come for you. Contemplate examples. Remember specific people you've known who died. They were alive, walking and talking and making plans just like you are now. Then they were dead. Their plans didn't matter. Their hope for more time didn't matter. Death came regardless. Think about famous people, powerful people, wealthy people who died. Their resources couldn't save them. Their status couldn't protect them. Think about young people who died. People who seemed healthy yesterday. People who didn't see it coming. Death doesn't wait for convenient timing. It doesn't check your schedule or ask permission. Let these reflections build a visceral sense of certainty. Not intellectual acknowledgement, but gut-level recognition. Death is coming for me with absolute certainty. No escape, no exception. Guaranteed. As you sit with this certainty, notice what arises. Fear might come. Let it be there without pushing it away or being consumed by it. Sadness might arise as you contemplate losing everything you're attached to. Let it move through you. Denial might try to reassert itself with thoughts like, "This is depressing," or "I don't want to think about this." Notice these resistance thoughts without obeying them. Stay with the contemplation. Death is certain. This body will stop functioning. This life will end. Everything you're experiencing right now, every sensation, thought, and perception, depends on biological processes that will cease. When your heart stops pumping blood to your brain, consciousness as you know it will undergo radical transformation. The person you identify as yourself will be gone. All your memories, your personality quirks, your preferences and opinions, your entire subjective world, will either end completely or transform into something unrecognizable. This is not speculation. This is fact. Certain. Inevitable. Already approaching with every passing second. When the timer signals 2 minutes, release this specific contemplation and take 1 deep breath. Shake out your hands if you need physical release. Then immediately begin the second segment. If this practice is already affecting you, please like this video so others can discover this transformative meditation. The second 2-minute segment contemplates the uncertainty of when death will occur. Reset your timer for 2 minutes. The contemplation shifts now from certainty that death will happen to uncertainty about when it will happen. You know you'll die. You don't know when. It could be decades from now. It could be tonight. Heart attacks happen to people who felt fine this morning. Aneurysms strike without warning. Accidents occur in seconds. Infections that seemed minor become fatal. You've lived until now, but that guarantees nothing about tomorrow. Contemplate specific possibilities, not to become paranoid, but to recognize reality. You could have a stroke today. An undiagnosed cancer could be growing in your body right now. The next car ride could be your last. The meal you just ate could trigger a fatal allergic reaction. These aren't remote possibilities. They're daily realities for someone somewhere. Why not you? What makes you different from the thousands who will die unexpectedly today? Traditional Tibetan teachings enumerate causes of death to drive this point home. Death can come from external causes, accidents, violence, natural disasters, animal attacks. Death can come from internal causes, heart failure, cancer, infection, organ failure. Death can come from a combination, exhaustion leading to accident, stress triggering cardiac event. The causes are innumerable, and many are completely beyond your control. You might eat healthily, exercise regularly, avoid risks, and still die young from genetic disease. Or you might live recklessly and survive to old age. The randomness is terrifying if you try to control it, liberating if you accept it. You cannot secure yourself against death. You cannot earn more time through good behavior. You cannot negotiate with mortality. When your time comes, it comes. Contemplate how you've been living as if you know you have tomorrow. How much time have you wasted on trivial concerns? How many important conversations have you postponed? How much have you delayed telling people you love them, apologizing for harms you've caused, expressing gratitude, doing what truly matters to you? You've been treating time as infinite, but you don't actually know if you have another day, another hour, another minute. This isn't cause for panic. It's invitation to clarity. If you knew you would die tonight, what would matter to you in your remaining hours? Would you worry about your social media profile? Would you stress about work deadlines? Would you ruminate about someone's opinion of you? Or would you reach out to loved ones, express what needs expressing, and spend your final hours in ways that reflect your deepest values? The practice isn't to live every day as if it's your last in some superficial carpe diem way. It's to recognize that it might actually be your last, which changes everything. Your petty concerns are revealed as petty. Your authentic priorities emerge clearly. What matters and what doesn't become obvious. Uncertainty about when death comes is not a problem to be solved, but reality to be accepted. And accepting this reality makes you present. You cannot be truly present while believing you have infinite tomorrows. You can only be present when you recognize that this moment might be all you have. Feel this in your body. Notice how this recognition affects your sense of time, your priorities, your perspective on whatever you've been worrying about. Stay with the uncertainty. You don't know when death comes. It could be today. Let that possibility be real, not theoretical. When the timer sounds after 2 minutes, release this contemplation and take another centering breath. Prepare for the final segment. The third 2-minute segment contemplates what will help you at the time of death. Set your timer for the final 2 minutes. You've established that death is certain and its timing uncertain. Now contemplate. When death comes, what will help me? What will matter in those final moments? All the things you spend enormous energy pursuing will be completely useless. Your possessions won't help. You can't take them with you. Your money and property will pass to others while you face death alone. Your reputation won't matter. Your social status, your job title, your achievements, all the identity markers you've worked so hard to build will be irrelevant. The opinions people hold about you won't affect what you experience. Your physical body, which you've spent so much time grooming and maintaining and worrying about, will be left behind, becoming a corpse. Everything external that you've treated as important will be stripped away. What remains? What actually helps at death? According to Tibetan Buddhism, only 2 things help: the quality of your mind and the karma you've accumulated through your actions. The quality of your mind means whether you've developed wisdom, compassion, stability, and insight through practice, or whether your mind remains chaotic, reactive, grasping, and deluded. If you've spent your life training your mind through meditation, cultivating positive qualities and weakening afflictive patterns, your mind will be your ally at death. If you've neglected mental training, your mind will be your enemy, full of fear, regret, confusion, and grasping. The karma you've accumulated through your actions means the sum total of your intentional choices, the habits you've created, the effects you've had on others. Actions motivated by kindness, generosity, and wisdom create positive karma that supports you at death and beyond. Actions motivated by selfishness, cruelty, and delusion create negative karma that makes death terrifying and conditions difficult future experiences. Contemplate this honestly. Are you preparing for death? Are you training your mind? Are you accumulating positive karma through how you treat others? Or are you living as if death will never come, spending your time and energy on things that will be completely useless when it actually arrives? This isn't judgment but clear seeing. Most people spend decades preparing for retirement but zero time preparing for death. Even though retirement is uncertain while death is guaranteed, this is profound misallocation of resources based on denial. What would your life look like if you took death as seriously as you take your career, your finances, your relationships? What would change if you spent even a fraction of your planning energy preparing for the inevitable, rather than trying to secure the temporary? The contemplation becomes practical. What can you do today that will help at death? You can practice meditation, training your mind to remain stable and aware regardless of circumstances. You can cultivate compassion, weakening the self-centered patterns that create fear. You can act ethically, creating positive karma and reducing the burden of regret. You can study teachings about death and the bardos, familiarizing yourself with what to expect. You can practice recognizing the nature of mind, the fundamental awareness that continues through death, and can recognize liberation if you've trained sufficiently. You can live with integrity, reducing the gap between your values and your actions so you face death with fewer regrets. All of this is preparation. All of this helps. Or you can continue postponing preparation, living as if death is distant, treating spiritual practice as something to get around to eventually. But death doesn't wait for you to feel ready. It comes on its own schedule, and when it comes, you'll face it with whatever preparation you've actually done, not the preparation you meant to do someday. Let this recognition motivate you. Death is the supreme motivator if you let it be. The certainty of death and uncertainty of when makes this present moment infinitely precious. You have this moment to practice, to prepare, to live according to your deepest values. You may not have another. Please share this meditation with someone who needs to remember what truly matters. When the timer sounds ending the third segment, don't immediately rush back to ordinary activity. Sit for another minute in open awareness, letting the contemplation settle. Notice how you feel. Has your perspective shifted? Do your usual concerns seem different? Is there a quality of presence or clarity that wasn't there before? Give yourself time to integrate. Then make a commitment. What will you do differently today because of this meditation? How will recognizing death change your choices in the next few hours? Perhaps you'll call someone you've been meaning to contact. Perhaps you'll apologize for something you've been avoiding. Perhaps you'll do the important thing you've been postponing. Perhaps you'll simply be more present with whatever you're doing, recognizing it might be the last time you do it. Make the commitment specific and follow through immediately while the meditation's impact is fresh. This 6-minute practice should be done daily, preferably at the same time to establish habit. Morning practice colors your entire day with death awareness, making your activities more intentional. Evening practice reviews your day from the perspective of mortality, highlighting whether you lived according to what truly matters. The practice doesn't become easier with repetition, in the sense of becoming comfortable. Death contemplation should always have an edge, should always affect you. But it becomes more familiar, and that familiarity transforms your baseline relationship to life. Instead of occasional moments of death awareness quickly suppressed, you develop continuous background recognition of impermanence. This recognition becomes your constant companion, your wise advisor, your bullshit detector that immediately identifies when you're wasting time or avoiding what matters. The effects of regular death meditation are well documented in both traditional texts and contemporary research. Practitioners report increased gratitude for ordinary experiences, recognizing each moment as precious rather than taking life for granted. They report improved relationships because death awareness motivates authentic communication and appreciation rather than postponing what needs to be said. They report decreased anxiety paradoxically because facing the ultimate fear regularly reduces its unconscious power. They report clarified priorities, easily distinguishing between what truly matters and what's trivial distraction. They report increased motivation for spiritual practice, recognizing that death gives urgency to the quest for liberation. And they report reduced fear of death itself, because familiarity replaces the terror of the unknown with clear-eyed acceptance of the inevitable. Some people worry that daily death meditation will make them depressed or nihilistic. The opposite occurs. Depression often involves ruminating about past regrets or future fears, while feeling powerless to change anything. Death meditation grounds you in present reality and empowers purposeful action. It reveals that you have agency right now to live according to your values, to prepare for death, to create meaning through your choices. Nihilism involves believing nothing matters because everything ends. Death meditation reveals that things matter precisely because they end. The temporary nature of life doesn't make it meaningless. It makes every moment infinitely precious. A sunset is beautiful partly because it's fleeting. A conversation matters partly because you'll never have this exact conversation again. Life is meaningful precisely because it's finite. Tibetan Buddhism teaches that death meditation is the foundation for all other practices. If you don't internalize impermanence and death, you'll never practice with sufficient urgency. You'll always postpone, always find excuses, always assume you have time. But if death awareness is alive in you, practice becomes urgent. Liberation becomes the priority. The question becomes not whether to practice, but how can you afford not to practice given that death could come at any moment? This urgency isn't frantic or desperate, it's focused and energized, the urgency of someone who knows what matters and doesn't waste time on what doesn't. The 6-minute format makes this practice accessible even in busy modern life. You cannot claim you don't have 6 minutes. Everyone has 6 minutes. The question is priority. Is contemplating the reality of your death important enough to dedicate 6 minutes daily? If not, what does that say about how you're living? What are you prioritizing above preparing for the one certainty in your future? Death meditation reveals your actual priorities, not your stated values. You might claim that family is most important, but if you spend more time on your phone than in meaningful conversation with family members, your behavior reveals a different priority. Death meditation creates alignment between stated values and actual behavior by making mortality visceral enough to change your choices. Advanced practitioners extend the basic 6-minute practice in various ways. You can contemplate specific details of the dying process, the dissolution of the elements, the stages of breath cessation, the experiences described in the Tibetan Book of the Dead. You can visualize your own death in detail, walking through the entire process from final illness or accident through the moment of death and beyond. You can practice phawa, consciousness transference practice that trains you to direct awareness at death toward liberation or positive rebirth. You can contemplate the deaths of everyone you know, recognizing that all your relationships will end through separation or death, which makes the time you have together precious. You can extend the practice to contemplating others' deaths, cultivating compassion for all beings who face mortality. But these extensions should come after the foundation is stable. Master the basic 6-minute practice first, establishing daily consistency over weeks and months before elaborating. Some practitioners worry about becoming morbid or obsessed with death. This is possible if the practice is done with wrong attitude or without balance. The antidote is ensuring the practice leads to life-affirming action rather than depressive withdrawal. After meditation, engage fully with life. The point isn't to reject life, but to live it fully with clear awareness of its temporary nature. Think of death meditation as sharpening the saw so you can cut more effectively, not as throwing away the saw, because it will eventually wear out. Life becomes more vivid, not less, when you recognize its impermanence. Colors seem brighter, conversations more meaningful, ordinary experiences more precious when you know they're fleeting. We've explored the 6-minute death meditation from Tibetan Buddhism, a practice that contemplates the certainty of death, the uncertainty of when it will occur, and what will actually help when death arrives. This simple structure, practiced daily, systematically dismantles the denial that prevents authentic living. It transforms death from a taboo subject you avoid into a wise teacher you consult daily. It reveals what matters and what doesn't with perfect clarity. It motivates spiritual practice and ethical living by making mortality real, rather than theoretical. It reduces fear through familiarity, while increasing urgency through recognition that time is finite and its end unknown. This is not morbid obsession, but life-affirming wisdom. Recognizing death makes life meaningful, precious, and urgent in the best possible way. What would change in your life if you practiced this meditation daily for a month? How would your priorities shift if you truly internalized that death could come at any moment? Share your reflections and commit publicly to trying this practice. If this teaching has shifted your perspective on death and life, subscribe to this channel for more authentic Tibetan Buddhist wisdom that addresses fundamental human realities with practical methods. Share this video with anyone who seems to have forgotten that they're mortal, anyone who's postponing what matters, anyone who needs the wake-up call that only death awareness provides. May this practice help you live fully, prepare wisely, and die consciously when your time comes. Remember, death is certain, its timing uncertain. What will you do with the time you have? These 6 minutes daily might be the most important practice you ever undertake.